This is the Louie T Network. You are now officially in the lab room. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the off season, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off.
Hey yo, who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie T aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2017 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series. We cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we will get a grade for each and every single player selected in the draft by said team. We will then tally up the scores, apply bonuses when necessary, divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us an overall score and grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer out there, are in total control, as this is the You Pick format, or as I like to call it, the Up format. Simply be the first, not the second, not the third, but the absolute first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos of this series stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Had someone be first last video, but they did not put the comment in first. They did not say first. They just blurted out the team that they wanted to see. So make sure you follow directions. It's really simple: the team you want to see next and the phrase next itself. So a couple of examples: Jacksonville Jaguars next, Jags next, Jaguars next, next, Jags. You get the picture. Just make sure that both of those components in conjunction with each other are in the comment and you're first. And please spare me the actual screenshots of you being first. YouTube does a great job of sorting out who's first and who isn't. So with that being said, let's move on to the next team in the series picked by you, the viewer out there, by default. Okay, the New Orleans Saints are up next in the series. And I told you from the jump, just off of first blush, looking at their draft from afar, the day after the draft had completed, that I thought they had one of the strongest drafts of any team. And I'm here to tell you, after assessing their draft and actually going through it with a fine-tooth comb, I'm here to reiterate that the Saints had one of the best drafts in 2017. Now, again, this is all on paper. We're going to see what these players do out on the football field. But last year, I told you that I thought the Falcons had one of the best drafts, and the Falcons guys went out and performed on the field as such. This looks like that kind of draft on paper. We'll see how these players perform on the field. But let's dive into this draft that I thought was extraordinary by the New Orleans Saints. You give away Brandon Cooks in the offseason, and everyone's scratching their head asking, what are you doing? And I thought the Saints did a great job of stockpiling early round selections, being aggressive and going up and getting good football players early in the draft. There's nothing worse to me, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but there's nothing worse to me than the team that has 11 picks and 4 of them are 7th rounders. How often is it that a 7th round pick makes your roster, okay? You've got a better shot, to be honest with you, making a team as an undrafted rookie than a 7th round pick, because you get to pick where you go. You get to go to a team where you can say, hey, they have a shortage of wide receivers. They could actually use a guy to come in and compete at the receiver position versus being picked on a team like the Green Bay Packers, for instance, who has 19 receivers already on their roster. And if you get picked in the 7th round, chances of you making a roster slim and none. But I digress. Let's get back to the Saints draft. We jump into the first round, where they had 2 first-round selections via that Brandon Cooks trade with the Patriots. The first of which, 11th overall selection, Ohio State, the Ohio State University cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore is the selection. We talked about a ton of corners, and to me, we talked about steals in the first round, and a lot of people said the Redskins getting Jonathan Allen at 17 was the biggest steal. I'm not sure that this here, the 11th selection of the first round, Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback out of Ohio State, isn't the biggest steal of the first round, because He was a consensus #1 cornerback. We talked about all the good corners and how this is a deep draft, but he was the guy that everyone said, hey, he's got the best skill set of any cornerback in this draft, and yet he falls to 11. You got to think to yourself, the Saints got away with the steal here. Let's talk about him. 6 feet, 193, that's where we start size. That's the first pro. In today's NFL, it's crazy because I remember a time when 5'10" was the average height of a corner and no one thought anything of it. Now, if you're 5'10", you're relegated to the slot most times than not. We're going to see what happens with the Tennessee Titans and Adoree Jackson because he's a 5'10", 183, 85, 86 pound corner. We're going to see what they decide to do with him. But generally, teams don't spend a first round pick on a slot corner. But Marshawn Lattimore is today's NFL corner in terms of size, 6 feet or better, right around 200 pounds, can run like the wind, and we're going to get to that here in a second, but that's today's NFL. The receivers are getting bigger, stronger, faster, and to combat that, you're going to need corners that are the exact same thing, bigger, stronger, faster. Marshawn Lattimore fits that essentially to a T. Athleticism, 4.36, 40, 35-inch and a half-inch vert, 11-foot broad. That's explosion all day long, folks, if I've ever seen it. So you're talking about a guy that can run with Julio Jones, that can jump with a guy like Mike Evans, and can stay in the hip pocket and be stride for stride right with Kelvin Benjamin. And that's what you're looking for in a division where there are a ton of big receivers who can run, who can separate, whether it's with size or with speed or with both. And so you need a guy like this as your #1 corner. And that's what Marshawn Lattimore is looking to do in New Orleans, come in and be their #1 corner. Speaking of which, top-notch movement skills and explosion. Man, is this guy just so fluid out in space. You watch him turn his hips and run with these receivers, and it's just effortless. He just makes it look easy. He drives on the football with an explosion and an aggression that's going to allow him to make plays on the football that's going to scare quarterbacks away from throwing to his side. Again, with these corners and these top-level guys, you see the flip of the hips, you see the footwork, you see everything just look easy. There's a play against, I want to say, Wisconsin. Don't quote me on this. I don't think it was Wisconsin. It was one of these Big Ten teams, though, and they throw a pass over the middle of the field. And it was Oklahoma. It wasn't a Big Ten team. It was Oklahoma. And it's like a post route across the middle of the field. And the receivers got to step on him. And the quarterback lets the football go. Baker Mayfield lets it go. And he's got it. And at the last second, there's 3 steps. And those 3 steps were the difference in that play. And it's Marshawn Lattimore just closing the distance and then cutting in front of the receiver and picking the football off. It's that kind of explosion. It's those types of movement skills that's going to make this guy an elite corner very quickly in this league. He's got ball skills. That's the next pro. 4 INTs in 2016. He makes plays. He's always looking to make a play, whether it's off a carom, whether it's like the play I just referenced against Oklahoma. Almost had 2 picks in that game, made a diving stab at one that was later overturned by review. But nonetheless, he's got ball skills. He's always looking to make a play for his team. And he's dangerous because once he gets the football in his hands, he's one of those guys that can return it for a touchdown like he did versus Tulsa in the first game of the season. So he's a guy that's always looking to make plays, got elite ball skills. And again, generally speaking, you don't get drafted this high unless you're one of those guys that has elite ball skills. And Marshawn Lattimore has that as well. He's an LLCer. He's going to look, locate, and contest the football, looking to make plays, and does a really good job of looking back. There's a play against Penn State where the ball's up in the air. It's a 50-50 ball, and he turns, he locates, and he's able to leap up and knock the football away. And so those are the types of plays you're going to need a guy like this to make. And he's going to see that same receiver in the division as he was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So those are the types of plays you want to see guys make, where they look, they locate, and they contest the football. Lattimore did that tons of times on tape. He's an aggressive participant in the run game. again, just another big pro that I love to see in a cornerback, because again, with these corners, a lot of times you get business decisions, and I'm never going to tell a guy how to do his job, but you always want to see guys who are active, who are aggressive, who are willing to put their bodies on the line in the run game. And look, I'm not asking for you to come up and be a safety and knock your shoulder out of place trying to make a tackle, but what I am asking for you to do as a corner is to do your job, set an edge, to be aggressive, to be that guy that turns runs back inside, to be a guy that on a bubble screen or on a wide receiver screen is going to come up and fight through a block and get to that ball carrier or that receiver, to be a guy that's going to take out a tackle who's coming and pulling outside to set the edge in the run game, cut his legs from under him. All right, put your body out there and be a team player, and that's what you get from Marshon Lattimore all day long. He's an effective blitzer. Again, you don't see this as much in the NFL anymore like you used to with the corner blitzes off the edge. Now, you may get the slot blitz, but you rarely get a corner. It just comes from too far, it takes too long, and it's too easy to identify these days. But in college football, some coordinators still feel comfortable sending their corners from out wide. He was one of those guys that did it and did it very effectively. And he's very aggressive when he is sent as a blitzer. And I thought he was a very effective blitzer as well. And then he's scheme diverse. This is a guy that can play man-to-man press, can play soft on that man-to-man where he's coming up and he's pressing and bailing. You can play off. He's a guy, I think his press and bail technique is probably his biggest attribute, where he just comes up, flips his hips, eyes on quarterback and receiver at the same time. And if he needs to plant and drive, he can. If he needs to bail and just get out of there like he did against Oklahoma and go diving and stay on top of that receiver, keep him in the hip and go and get the football, he can do that as well. So this guy can play zone, he can play man, he can play press, he can play off. You name it, he can do it, which allows the defensive coordinator to do a number of different things and allow the scheme to be very diverse with a guy like Marshon Lattimore. So you go from his pros to some of his cons. At times, I feel like he will panic when a guy is on top of him and he doesn't turn and look. There's a play, well, actually that's Marcus Williams that we'll talk about a little bit later on, but sometimes he'll face guard when he can actually turn around and still has time. And what he has to realize is that he's a special athlete. He's got time. And a lot of these times, just turn around and locate the ball. Even if it's a last second look, you may be able to knock it away or even pick it off. There are times where he doesn't look. And he gave up a big play in the Penn State game because he didn't look. Instead, he just opted to put his hands up and try to reach in and rake the football out. And it was a great catch by the Penn State receiver down to about the 4-yard line in a game that they would ultimately lose. But nonetheless, there are plays to be made if he turns and looks. And sometimes I think when he feels like he doesn't have time to look, he'll just face guard instead of turning and locating the football. But it's not often that he does that, but he will do that from time to time. And then finally, his hamstrings kept him from really having a ton of experience at Ohio State. His hamstrings were a problem in 2014. His hamstrings were yet again a problem in 2015, limiting his playability. And he finally got to play in 2016, which leads me to my final con, lack of experience. You're dealing with a one-year starter, and I don't know if that had a lot to do with him dropping in the draft or if the hamstring injuries were a concern for teams. But nonetheless, this guy fell, and we thought he was going to come off the board as early as number 5 to Tennessee. And he ends up dropping all the way down to number 11. And so you get yourself a steal here in the first round. Now, again, 1 year of experience. What does that mean? That could mean that he could get exposed at the next level because you didn't get to see him against a bunch of top-notch talent. And so now you put him against Julio Jones one week, Mike Evans the next week, Deshaun Jackson in that same game, and all of a sudden it's not the same guy you saw on tape. But it could be that this guy has everything that you need to be an elite corner at the next level, and that he's going to even get better and mature and in the league become one of the best corners in, say, 2 or 3 years down the line. And I think that's what the Saints project here, and I feel the same way. I think this was a big-time steal for the New Orleans Saints in the first round, 11th overall selection. The Ohio State University cornerback Marshawn Lynch. Is it on? He's hitting out of here. And I think I just called him Marshawn Lynch. It's Marshon Lattimore. And I just want to say this before we move on. The NFC South, to me, is the strongest division in terms of quarterbacking. There's not one team in that division that doesn't have a quarterback that can hurt you. Whether you're talking Panthers and Cam Newton, you're talking Bucks and Jameis Winston, you're talking Falcons and Matt Ryan, who won the MVP a season ago, and of course your quarterback, Drew Brees. This is the strongest quarterback-driven division in all of football. If you don't have the play at the cornerback position, if you don't have the ability to get after the quarterback, which were two positions that the Saints struggled at, and of course, safety as well, something that they addressed in this draft, and they even addressed last draft at Ohio State, then you're going to struggle in a division where quarterbacks will carve you up. And this was a necessary evil here for the Saints. They needed to invest. I mean, if you look around that division, all the teams have invested heavily in the cornerback position for good reason. We're going to find out if the Panthers made a mistake by letting Josh Norman go. We'll see those young corners and how they develop in year number 2. But if you look at the Falcons, they've locked up their cornerback position for years to come. The Saints are starting to really put some emphasis on getting some young, talented corners in their secondary and even at the safety position. And you saw what the Buccaneers did last year, spending a first-round pick at the cornerback position with Vernon Hargreaves III. So it is imperative that you have these types of players in your secondary in a division where if you don't have a good enough defense, it may not be elite, but you better have a good enough defense, or you can mess around and go 0-6 in a division where quarterback play is elite. You go to the next pick, another first rounder for the New Orleans Saints, 32nd pick overall, Wisconsin offensive lineman Ryan Ramczyk is the selection. This was one of the better offensive tackles in this entire draft. He comes off the board in the first round. 6'6", 310 pounds is where we start with his pros, his size. He's a big man, and he's the type of guy that I just love seeing coming to the next level because I know what I'm getting. And we'll talk about that as we continue to break him down. But he's got outstanding feet and movement skills. That's the next pro. You watch this guy, and I'll just go ahead and kind of couple it with the next pro because to me they all go hand in hand. He's a technician. His feet, his hands, his angles that he takes, it's all seamless. It's all fluid. You can tell he's coached up well. And I say this all the time. And it's actually a pro, so I'll go ahead and name it now. He plays at Wisconsin. That's a pro for me because I know what I'm getting from an offensive lineman that comes out of Wisconsin, or generally the Big Ten. I feel really comfortable with Big Ten offensive linemen. But if you want to get even more specific, I feel comfortable with the Wisconsin offensive linemen. Those guys are usually well coached. They're sound in their fundamentals and technique, and they're really, really quality football players. They churn out good offensive linemen. It's almost like that string of offensive tackles that came out of the SEC school. Always mix them up. Mississippi State and the other school that looks just like them, Texas A&M. They had a run, did Texas A&M, of first-round tackles, and it just seemed like every year they were churning out a new first-round tackle. It started with Luke Jokel, then it was Jake Matthews, then it was the tackle Obuehi that the Bengals took last year, and it just kept happening and happening and happening. And even I think they had another guy go last year to the Seahawks in the first round. So it just was a cycle there. And I feel like the same way with Wisconsin, you know you're getting a quality football player. And then this is what this guy is. He's a technician. His feet are all outstanding. He's rarely out of position, which is another pro where he anchors well and he's rarely out of position. Guys try to bull rush him. They try to give him a speed to the outside and he just pushes them around the quarterback. He's just outstanding. I watched him in the run game. If you go and watch him in the Ohio State game, they gashed the Ohio State Buckeyes on that Saturday night. They destroyed them up at Camp Randall and in the run game. And if you look at those runs, just about every single big run in that game, and they had a field day, came right behind Ryan Ramczyk. If you look at that game right to the left side, they had a field day, and it was because of him moving guys, which is the next pro. He's a man mover, and he's a sealer in the run game, and he sustains his blocks. So when he gets on a guy, they're not getting loose until that running back is past him or that receiver is past him and he's done his job adequately. This is a guy that takes guys. I watched him take Sam Hubbard and create a new 3-yard line of scrimmage, okay? I watched him take Bosa's younger brother and move him 2-3 yards off the ball consistently. I watched him take every single Ohio State defender that they put in front of him that night and move them 2 or 3 yards off the football and create a new line of scrimmage. I watched him get to the second level and seal off linebackers, which is the next pro. He's a second level bully. This guy, like I said, really good feet, good angles. So rarely is he out of position. Again, just well coached out of Wisconsin. You feel good about what you're getting. He's got quality recovery as his last pro. I watched Taco Charlton, and this guy went up against elite competition, future first round picks. All right, Sam Hubbard, most likely going to be a future first round pick. Taco Charlton was a first round pick, okay, of the Dallas Cowboys this year. He went up against these types of guys. Arden Key, who is by many going to be one of the top 10 picks, maybe the first defensive end off the board out of LSU. He went up against him and put a stranglehold on every single one of those guys, and they were quiet against him. So again, this is a guy that went up against top-notch talent, and he played at a A+ level against every single one of them. Now, I will tell you that Taco Charlton did put a nice spin move on him twice and beat him with that same move, and he recovered both times. He was able to save the day. Now, it may have been a little bit of a hold that didn't get called, but again, he was able to recover. If he gets beat to the outside, does a really good job of pushing that guy around the pocket, allowing the quarterback to step up. So quality recovery you get from, and that's what you get from the best of the best. Even when they get beat, they find a way to get back into the play and win the match. So you go from his pros to some of his cons. Quick inside moves present problems sometimes. And I just told you about Taco Charlton spinning on him. When a guy keeps giving you speed to the outside, bull rush, you start to get a feel for what they're doing, and you think you got them lined up, and then boom, they hit you with a spin move. It can work, and it got him sometimes. And I think that's where he's most susceptible, is inside rushes, more so than the outside. I think he handles those very well. But when you come with a nice spin or something hard to the outside, back inside quickly with the swim over, I think that's where he could struggle a little bit. We'll see. And then finally, he's a one-year starter. Look, there's not really much I can say about that. But the only thing that I have to combat him being a one-year starter is the fact that he went up against elite talent in that 1 year, and he was dominant. And so I've seen all I need to see. He went to Wisconsin. I feel good about him. I think Ryan Ramczyk is a guy that you feel good about. And I'll tell you this much, I feel better about him than I did Andrus Peat. And I never liked that pick 2 years ago. And Teron Armstead, who has been a revelation for you. Remember, he was a third-round pick and a small school guy out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. This is a guy that played at a major, big Power 5 conference school in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. You know what you're getting. I tell you right now, with Teron Armstead out for the foreseeable future, this is a guy that maybe needs to start at left tackle for you. I don't know. I'm not saying, I know you drafted him to play on the right side. Maybe he comes in and he has to start for you on the left. And maybe Teron Armstead, who has been injured for a lot of his career, maybe he's the guy that needs to kick over to the right side. Teron Armstead is the prototypical left tackle in this league. Long arms, athletic. He's the guy you want on the left side, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy of late. I'm not saying, I'm just saying Ryan Ramczyk can get the job done if need be. In the first round, 32nd overall pick, Wisconsin offensive lineman Ryan Ramczyk. You can put him on the board. Yes! It's another home run. Back-to-back jacks for the New Orleans Saints in the first round. And if you got 2 first rounders, you better hit 2 home runs. I'm not playing with your ass. And they did that in the first round, getting the job done, going defense, then going offense. And this is a team that they've got the pieces. Now it's all about putting it all together as we move to the second round. 42nd pick overall, Utah safety Marcus Williams is the selection. This is a true free safety in every sense of the word. 6'1", 202 pounds. We start there with his size. That's a pro. A lot of people, including myself, feel like he could probably put on another 5 to 10 pounds, really strengthen that frame a little bit. But if you're going to lose some of the athleticism to trade off for a little bit of size, I'll take the athleticism and I'll bypass the size. So it's all about figuring out if he can put on weight without losing the athleticism. Speaking of which, 4'5'6", 40 guy, 43.5-inch vert and a 10.7 broad. That speaks to the explosiveness that he brings to the table, in addition to him having one of the better 3 cones and 60-yard shuttles at the combine. So this guy is highly explosive and athletic and dynamic, and you saw it on tape. There are some plays that he makes where you say, okay, we see what this guy brings to the table as a single high center fielder type of safety. Really good range. That's the next pro. I feel like this is a guy you line up in the middle of the field, and he can do a really good job of getting from the numbers from where he is and to the sidelines where he needs to be, especially if he gets a good beat on what the quarterback is looking to do. He's one of those types of guys that will make a play on the football, and he'll arrive at the party when he's supposed to, and it's his athleticism and range that will allow him to do that. He's a very methodical defender. That's the next pro. And essentially all I'm trying to say is he plays under control. Now that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a gift and a curse. It's a good thing because as the last line of defense, you want guys that are going to make plays, get guys on the ground, not be out of control, and allow a guy to cut back against the grain and run and take a 25-yard gain and turn it into an 80-yard gain for a touchdown. You need guys that are going to be able to play under control, break down, and make a tackle, because again, as a single high safety, you are the last line of defense. So he'll come up. He plays under control. He doesn't miss a lot of tackles, and that's probably the reason why. The biggest reason why is because he's a very methodical guy. He's not up in a rush to get up there and make a tackle, which, you know, you give up yards doing that, but it also means he's going to minimize the amount of damage that's done. He's a solid tackler. Again, feel comfortable with this guy being your last line of defense. Now, he's not going to drop a hammer on anybody. That's not his game. He's the type of guy that you can drag, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But again, when you're the last line of defense, you've already given up some yards. If Marcus Williams is making a tackle, just get the guy on the ground and play damage control, and he does a really good job of doing that. Ball skills. This is where this guy's going to make his hay at the next level. This is where he's going to separate himself from a lot of the other safeties in this draft, is his ball skills. 11 career interceptions. I watched this guy dominate on the tapes that I watch of him just making plays, taking points off the scoreboard. There's a play against Arizona State, just a fabulous play. It's his first game back coming off of an injury where he missed a couple of games, and the quarterback rolls out and he sees a target coming open, and Marcus Williams is running across, kind of shadowing the quarterback, and the target is literally 5 yards behind Marcus Williams. I don't know if he actually sees him at the time, but out of his peripheral, at the last second, he sees that receiver and sees where the quarterback's going. He stops, plants, pivots, turns, cuts in front of the receiver. The quarterback never sees Marcus Williams making that play in the end zone, takes the football away, and gets a little bit of a return, takes some points off the scoreboard. And that's a fabulous play, folks. And that's what he brings to the table. There's another play where I watch him man-to-man coverage in the slot, cut off a receiver on a slant, just takes the football from him. Again, this is what this guy does. He's got that capability to make those types of plays. Center fielder with ability to keep quarterbacks' eyes is the final pro. That's, like I said, what his calling card is at the next level. He's a guy that you say, all right, we're going to lock up guys on the outside with Marshawn Lattimore and whomever they're going to put on the opposite side of him. And you're going to be the single high safety, and we're going to apply pressure. Can you handle that? And he's a guy that's like, yeah, I got it. I can play single high safety, man up back here, make sure nothing gets behind me, nothing cheap, nothing deep, everything stays in front of me. I got you. That's the kind of guy Marcus Williams is, going to help you really clean some things up. Him and Von Bell, I think, put together will really give you a nice tandem back there at the safety position as you're starting to really build a formidable secondary in New Orleans. Got to get that pass rush together, but the secondary is starting to come together. Also need the linebackers to start playing at a higher level as well. But make no mistake about it, you're 2 out of your first 3 picks really looking to fortify this secondary as we go from his pros to his cons. Taking poor pursuit angles. I am not in love with the angles that he takes coming up to make tackles, which is why I think that he's a true center fielder, not the best in terms of his angle pursuit. Because if you look at that same Arizona State game that I talked about, that I referenced, he takes some poor angles in that game, gives up some big yards. There are some times where he comes to fill holes up at the line of scrimmage and he takes the wrong angle and then allows the run to break. And then he's trying to come from behind when he should have been in front of the play, making a play and making a tackle. So you will see him take some poor angles. Again, the one thing that saves him a lot of times is that he doesn't come under or he doesn't come out of control. He comes under control. So even when he takes poor angles, he's able to turn, pivot, rebound, and redirect and get to the football. So I would love for him to take better pursuit angles. That is something that I think will enhance his ability to make plays, taking better angles to the football. He's not an enforcer. I told you that already. He's the type of guy going to tackle you, get your shoestring, get your ankle, and get you down like that. He's the kind of guy that's going to jump on your back, drag you down, and you're going to take him for a ride for an extra 2 or 3 yards. He's the kind of guy that's going to sling you around, and in the process, you're going to pick up an extra 1.5 yards to 2. He's not the type of guy that's going to come up, blow you up, lay a shoulder down, and knock the defender, dislodge the football, any of that stuff. That's not what Marcus Williams' game is all about. And finally, his eyes can betray him, and sometimes I feel like he needs to look for the football. So he's one of those guys looking to make plays. I told you he jumped the slant, and he loves to key quarterback's eyes, which is great. But also they can manipulate him if they tell him, oh, I'm going up front, I'm going up top to this 9 route, and they out at that 9 route, and they're all the time thinking I'm going backside post. He's the kind of guy that you can get as a single high safety manipulator. Okay, I'm going to that 9 on the front side, but really I want to go to that bang 8 on the backside. And he's that type of guy that you can manipulate and give you the space that you need to deliver the football. And also, he's the type of guy that when a receiver is ahead of him on a play, he won't turn and look. I'm watching him against Oregon. He's got a great opportunity to make a pick on a play, a ball that's slightly underthrown. He's in position. He feels like he's beat. So he face guards. Instead of turning around, the ball hits him in his back. If he turns around, it's a pick. And then, you know, sometimes guys frustrate me because they feel like they're beat. They don't know where the ball is. Well, of course you don't know where it is because you won't look. If he would have turned to look, he probably gets an interception. Luckily enough for him, ball hits him in the back, and he barely contacted the receiver. He didn't get a PI. Easily could have gotten one had he contacted that receiver a little bit more aggressively, but got bailed out. Just turn and look for the football. You never know what you can do when you just turn and look. So with that being said, though, I really like Marcus Williams a lot in the second round. 42nd pick overall. Utah safety Marcus Williams for me is a triple. This is the guy that you plug and play, and he comes in and is going to affect your defense in a positive way. A game breaker, a game changer, a playmaker. That's what this guy is as a single high safety at the next level, I believe. And so we'll see what he's able to do for this Saints defense. You go to the next pick, another pick that I just absolutely love. Third round, 67th pick overall, Tennessee running back Alvin Kamara is the selection. Look, this is a guy that I broke down in the Draft Prospects 101 series, so of course I'm not going to do that here. But what I will tell you is that I'm in love with this selection because of where he is, with the coach that he's with, and how they're going to utilize him. Yeah, you got Adrian Peterson in the offseason. Adrian Peterson in the offseason. You still got Ingram. But this is a guy that is a game changer, can catch it out of the backfield. He's what the game's been missing in New Orleans. Ever since Darren Sproles left, this is what the game's been missing. And yeah, you've had some other guys that have done some really good things for you out of the backfield, catching the football and doing some things. Tavares Cadet comes to mind. But Alvin Kamara is way more explosive and dynamic than anybody you've had since Sproles. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a game changer. I thought he was a first round type of back, to be honest. And I said, no way he gets out of the second round. And I think the lack of carries and some other things may have scared some teams away. I don't know what it was, but he lasted to the third round. This was a deeper running back draft as well. And then there was so many corners and safeties and guys that other teams were like, let me get mine now. So maybe he gets pushed back because of it. But that's their loss, your gain. In the third round, 67th pick overall, Tennessee running back Alvin Kamara is home run for the New Orleans Saints, man, I think you got to steal. I literally think you got away with a fast one here. Alvin Kamara is a much better back than a third-round back, and you're not even going to have to exploit him in ways that some other teams, if they would have taken him, would have had to use him. You're going to use him primarily on third downs, which is going to make this guy that much more electric. You can put him back on punts. This could be your new Reginald Bush, okay? He can be that dynamic for you with this Saints organization, and to me, there's no better coach of taking a guy and getting the most out of his talents than Sean Payton. Alvin Kamara landed in the absolute perfect spot for his skill set. It's a phenomenal pick by the Saints in the third round. You go to the next third round pick, and they had 3 of them, the second of which, 76th overall, Florida linebacker Alex Anzalone is the selection. 6'3", 241-pound linebacker is where we start. His size, the first pro. That is what you're looking for. I've talked about the new age NFL and how you're starting to see an influx of 6 foot, 6'1", 229, 227, 231, 233-pound linebackers, the Ryan Shaziers of the world, the Reuben Fosters of the world. That's the way of the NFL now. That's where it's starting to head. And you're seeing less of the 6'3", 241-pound Alex Anzalones of the world. But that's what you're looking for. If you can get a guy that size that can run, you'll take that over the 6 foot, 229-pound guy that can run, because what you want is a good combination of both, and that's what you get with Alex Anzalone. Speaking of which, his athleticism is the next pro. 4'6", 340. For a guy that big, that's a great time. 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle were also some of the best at that position at the combine. So, and this is a guy that you see on the field. That athleticism translates to the football field. Speaking of which, comfortable in space is the next pro. This is a guy that is tremendous out of space, flips the hips. Another one of these guys, if you don't block him, he's going to be in your backfield making a tackle for a loss. He's a menace. He's a guy that out in space in coverage situations excels, can run with running backs out of the backfield, can drop into zone coverage and do an adequate job there. So he's a guy that is just extremely comfortable out in space. Good closing burst, and that's sort of what I mentioned and alluded to just a second ago. If you don't block this guy and he's able to run and build up speed, his closing burst is phenomenal. He's got sideline to sideline closing speed. And so he's one of those guys, starts in the middle, doesn't get blocked. He's out all the way to the sideline, knocking a running back out of bounds. Solid in coverage, and this goes for man and zone. There are guys that are really good in zone, but you don't want them matched up one-on-one with a running back. Alex Anzalone is a guy that it doesn't matter zone or man coverage. He can do both and does both of them, to me, very well. Blitzes effectively. This is one of the things that I think you get with him that you don't with some of these linebackers. This is a guy that blitzes very well. I think he does a really good job of timing up blitzes, coming off the edge, coming up the middle. He'll also give you a little bit of a move. He's not one of these stiff blitzers who just run straight like a caveman. He's a guy that times up his blitzes effectively, and he's one of those guys that hits home very often. So I think that's something else you get with the Alex Anzalone package. And then finally, he's got some versatility. This is a guy that played at all 3 linebacker positions, strong, will, and also middle linebacker. So depending on where you feel like he best suits your football team, this is a guy that can come in and help you in a number of different spots. Worst case scenario, this is a guy that you can use in nickel sets, and he can be a nickel linebacker for you. Come in, run with some tight ends, some running backs out of the backfield, and blitz as well. So be effective in coverage, also blitz. And still, if they decide they want to hand it off on a draw or delay, he's physical enough to handle that responsibility as well. So there is a place for Alex Anzalone on your football team, even if it's only in sub packages. As you go on to his cons. Injury history. I think this is something that scared a lot of teams away with him. He missed a lot of 2014, missed some of 2015 with shoulder injuries. Okay, both of those seasons were abbreviated because of shoulder injuries. Then 2016, he was playing well, started the first 7 games, was balling. and then he breaks his arm. So this is a guy that just can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's effective. When he's not, he's not. I mean, there's really not much more for me to say there. And then the next con is he's over aggressive. He's a guy that you can get him mixed up with bootleg and play action fake. He'll bite on all of that stuff. All right, misdirection kills him because he's going on first movement. So ball's all the way on the opposite side of the field, and he's still running, chasing the fake handoff. Okay, he's a guy that you can really dupe on a lot of misdirection, play action fake, bootlegs, those types of things. A backdoor, a tight end faking the block, and then going out for a pass or coming across the formation. That's going to get Alex Anzalone just about every single time. And then finally, to me, he doesn't make enough plays for the athleticism and the size and all the things that he possesses. He didn't force not one fumble. He didn't recover a fumble, nor did he get an interception in college. I don't think he affects the game enough for a guy with this skill set, his size, and all the things that he brings to the table. And maybe that just comes from a lack of playing. Maybe that just comes from a guy that didn't play enough because of the injuries. That's something that's in play. But fact of the matter is, I watched these games and I just was expecting more, and I didn't get it from Alex Anzalone. So in the third round, 76th overall selection, Florida linebacker Alex Anzalone for me is a double. Doesn't mean that he can't flourish at the next level and play his best football of his life, you know, in a Saints uniform. That could very well be the case. I just haven't seen it from him. And so I've got my doubts. We'll see what he does with this Saints team that could desperately use some more help inside at the linebacker position. Speaking of which, here's another guy that can help you off the edge in the third round, 103rd overall selection, Florida Atlantic linebacker slash outside linebacker slash defensive end. So let's call him an edge rusher. Trey Hendrickson is the selection. Here's a guy that you watch him on tape and he's a lot of fun to watch. 6'4", 266 pounds is his first pro, that being his size. Really good size for a guy on the edge. He's relentless. All right, the relentlessness that he plays with, high motor, each and every single snap. You know what you're getting from this guy. You don't have to worry about if this guy's going to give you maximum effort, snap in, snap out. Move Rolodex. This is a guy that I was impressed with all the different moves that I got from him. Now, again, is he the most explosive and dynamic with these moves? No, but they're there. And if he can be taught some more hand usage and a little bit of craftiness, this could be a guy that could be a steal for you here in the third round. You get the hard outside back inside move. I thought that was a beautiful move. I watched him set up a tackle with that, get inside, just barely missed the quarterback, but it was effective and it worked. And we were talking about him playing against a big-time tackle. I want to say they were playing against Florida when he did that, and it worked. I also watched him against Miami. I watched him at the East-West Shrine game. So I watched him in a number of different games where he was playing against top-notch talent, and I thought he did some really good things. You also get the bull rush. His bull rush, speed to power, it's elite. All right, I watched him jack up a tackle, put him on skates, and get to the quarterback. This is a guy that does a really good job of turning speed into power. He's got an elite spin. Now, again, he's not as explosive, so the spin move, while it works, doesn't work as effectively as it would if he were someone with a little bit more get up and explosiveness. But that spin is legit. It's A1. And so he's got everything you need to be an aggressive and productive pass rusher at the next level. It's all about him putting in these things together. And I think coaching is going to be paramount for a guy like Trey Hendrickson at the next level. Started the point of attack. He does a really good job. Watched him against Florida, and I watched him ragdoll a tackle, push him out of the way and make a tackle. It was a beautiful play for no gain at the line of scrimmage. He can do that from time to time. Sometimes he can get caught in the wash, get stuck on blocks. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's definitely stout at the point of attack. His collegiate production was off the charts. 31 career sacks. There was a season in 2015 where he had 13 and a half. Last year, he had 9.5 sacks. So this is a guy extremely productive. 41 tackles for loss over his career. And this is the kicker. This is the one that I love. 7 forced fumbles. This is a guy that he's looking to get the football out. I watched him in that same Florida game, get the football out. A huge play in that game. They were trailing 14-7 late in that ball game. He strips the football from the quarterback. Ball comes out, scooped up in the end zone, touchdown. That's Trey Hendrickson right there. In that East-West Shrine game, he's able to beat the tackle, get around the corner, shorten the edge, knock the football out of the quarterback's hand. That's what he does. 7 forced fumbles throughout his career. He's not just looking for the sack. He wants the football, and to me, that's the most important thing. Guys are looking for the kill shot. You know what I would love? I would love for you to get the football out. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to kill the quarterback and him hold on to the ball and everybody go ooh and ah. I would prefer you knock the football out of his hands and recover that football or allow a teammate to recover it. That's what I want. I want possession of the ball. He's the type of guy that will try and get that for his team. Special teams value is the final pro. 4 block kicks in 2016. So you're getting a guy that not only is going to help you defensively, but also can help you on special teams. He blocked a punt, he blocked 2 field goals, and he also blocked an extra point. So this is a guy that's selling out, and I told you, high relentless motor. Even on special teams, you're getting maximum effort. Who's blocking extra points in college? 2-yard line. Who's blocking those? Trey Hendrickson is. And so you go from his pros to his cons. He doesn't disengage consistently enough for me. This is a guy that will set a physical edge, like I said, but he's not disengaging when that running back comes. He's not keeping that outside shoulder or inside shoulder free to make a play. He's a guy that you can block, and he's got shorter arms, and I think that's going to hurt him in certain instances where offensive linemen are able to get their longer limbs on him and keep him stuck in mud. But if he could ever disengage a little bit better, use his leverage to get up under their pads and keep them at bay, he could have something. And then finally, his final con, he's a second effort sack guy. So he doesn't win initially, okay? That speed rush up the field, probably not going to beat a lot of tackles, elite tackles. But that spin will, you know, off of that initial rush where he comes up the field and the speed doesn't work and then he spins to the inside, that spin will work. He's a guy that that quarterback thinks he's going to get outside the pocket, doesn't look behind him and feel the rush coming. And off of second effort, because he's been run up the field by the tackle, he'll come around and he'll hit that quarterback from behind and force a fumble. That's what he'll do. He'll get the hustle sacks, the second effort, the third effort sacks. If you got good coverage, Trey Hendrickson not going to give up on the play. He'll get those types of sacks, but he's not the guy that's going to win right off the snap like you have with Cameron Jordan right now. That's what you need more of in New Orleans. And you're hoping that he can develop into that type of guy, because to me, he has enough of the moves to get that done. It's all about coaching, I think, for him and possibly your final pick in this draft as to whether these guys develop into consistent pass rushers for you. You're hoping that Kikaha comes back and is able to be healthy and help you in that department, along with maybe a guy like Trey Hendrickson in the 3rd round, 103rd overall selection. Florida Atlantic linebacker Trey Hendrickson is a double for me. We're going to see how he develops, because I know one thing. This guy's going to play his ass off for you. He's going to hustle. He's going to play hard, snap in, snap out. You know you're going to get good football from him. It's just at what level? Is he going to be just a good average football player, or is he going to be a guy that's above average or elite for you? We'll see as a 3rd round pick. And then finally, in the 6th round, 196th overall selection, Miami edge rusher Al-Quadin Muhammad is the selection. This is another guy that I think has immense potential, all about coaching and all about his love of the game or lack thereof. How much does he want it? We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but let's just start with his pros first. Size and length. This is a 6'3", 255-pound, 33-inch armed defender that looks the part. If you're just talking eye test, Quadin Muhammad, all right, this guy looks the part. Boy, does he look good. I'm going to tell you what, standing up, and I prefer my Quan Muhammad standing up off the edge as an outside linebacker in a 3-4. That's what he can put his hand in the dirt. We'll talk about that versatility. But boy, does he look good coming off the edge as a stand-up pass rusher. Now, he's not going to give you much in the way of dropping into coverage. He's stiff, We'll talk about that. He's not going to offer you much in checking anybody out of the backfield, but standing up as an edge rusher, I think that's his best move. I think he comes with a lot more power. Speaking of which, speed to power transfer is his best weapon. All right. This guy, we go from a guy in Trey Hendrickson with a move Rolodex that is extensive. I mean, we can go down his Rolodex and we keep moving and looking at all the moves that he can bring to the table. And then you look at a guy like Al-Quadin Muhammad, where he's just got one move. And that's just straight power off the edge. Bull rush, speed to power, and he's long. He reminds me of Aldon Smith early in his career in San Francisco, how he looked long and wiry and it didn't look like he was really strong, but he would get under the pads of these tackles and jack them up, put them on skates, get to the quarterback. There's a play against Virginia Tech in 2015 where he just absolutely devours the tackle, puts him on skates, goes and gets the quarterback, almost strips the football away from him. That's what he can bring to the table. That speed to power is his best move as of right now, and that's going to have to change. And not necessarily that being his best move, but there has to be more moves. That's his only move. Not only is it his best, but that's his only move. That's his only weapon that he has at his disposal right now. Stop at the point of attack. Again, really long arms, allows him to contact the offensive lineman first and control the action. Does a really good job of doing that at the point of attack. He's got a high motor. He'll chase plays from the backside down. He'll come to a party late because the play went away from him, but he's still hustling. I like that about him. You're getting a high energy guy here in Al-Quadin Muhammad. And finally, versatility. Play with his hand in the dirt and standing up. I told you, I think he's a much better edge rusher when he's standing up in a 2-point stand versus a 3-point stance in a 4-3 as a base end. I like him as a stand-up outside linebacker, and I think he could do some damage if coached up correctly as a stand-up outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. Go from his pros to his cons. Off the field issues. Let's just get right to the meat and potatoes of why this guy is a 6th-round pick and why he didn't play in 2014 and he didn't play in 2016. In 2014, he got into an altercation after the spring game and they suspended him. There were some off-the-field issues in conjunction with that, and they just said, hey, look, you're going to sit down and you're going to reflect, okay? And so he came back, a different guy in 2015, and then he got into some trouble off the field again, accepting some illicit benefits from a car dealership. So they just went ahead and dismissed him from the program. And so he didn't play in 2016. So you're talking about a guy that has only played 1 year of football in the last 3 years. So you don't really know what you're getting there. You look good at the combine. He's an athlete, but how much does he love the game of football? He was going to transfer to Hampton University. And then he said, you know what? I don't know if I really want to play football. I'm just going to try to be a regular citizen now. So there's some mental things going on with Al-Quadin Muhammad. How much does he love the game? Is he just in it for the money? I don't know. You don't really know if he's going to put in the time and the effort in the film room and film study. Is he going to hone his craft the way that he needs to? We don't know the answers to that. But in any event, because of those off the field problems, he's got limited experience. He only played 2 years at Miami, and only one of those years in 2015 was he on the field extensively. So this is a guy that you really don't know what you're getting out of him, and he's so undeveloped because of the lack of playing time on the field. And that leads us right into the final con. He's a stiff athlete that needs work as a pass rusher. He doesn't have enough pass rush moves. He's very stiff. His hips are stiff. I told you he doesn't do a good job of dropping into coverage. So that's not something that's a part of his game right now. He's very limited as to what you can ask him to do because, again, he didn't play a lot at Miami. So I think this guy has immense talent. Love his frame and his body type. I love the speed to power. There is something there with him, but unless it's fully tapped into and unless he cares enough and dedicates himself to football, you're not going to get anything out of Al-Quadin Muhammad. But in the 6th round, this is the perfect place to take a guy like this. 6th round flyer. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, you move on. 196th pick overall. Miami edge rusher. Al-Quadin Muhammad for me is another double, man. These last 2 pass rushers that you took in Trey Hendrickson and Al-Quadin Muhammad, if coached up correctly, could pay off huge dividends for a New Orleans Saints defense that could use some pass rushers off the edge. And so that's the Saints draft. I think it's a phenomenal draft by Loomis and company, man. This was impressive. The first draft that I've broken down in 2017 to have 3 home runs and net yourself a home run bonus. Let's get to your points in this draft. I just made mention of it. 3 home runs for the Saints in Marshawn Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk in the first round, and then Alvin Kamara, to me, a steal in the 3rd round at the running back position. You get a triple in Marcus Williams, your 2nd round selection out of Utah at the safety position, and then you round out the draft with 3 doubles, netting you a doubles bonus in Anzalone, Hendrickson, and Muhammad. So that all totaled up together gives you a score of 27. You divide by the number of picks, 7 in this draft, and it's the highest score we have thus far in the draft wrap-up series this year, 3.85 triple. This was a phenomenal draft. We'll see how these players pan out for the Saints, but it was a tremendous haul for the New Orleans Saints. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. All I got is one question for you. Who's next?